Yes, and we're live. Welcome back again to another episode of Going Beyond Your Comfort Zone, um, where we talk about your comfort zone, change, what are you resisting, and what are you creating for the future. And today I have a very special guest with me, Lois Wagner. She's from Johannesburg, and we're actually on the same continent. I'm all the way on the other side in Morocco, in Agadir. Um, and we're just going to have a great conversation about uh, forgiveness and some of the things that Luz has been through. Um, and she's been through quite a bit, and her power of forgiveness is really inspirational. But Lewis, please introduce yourself, and then let's dive in.
Hi, Bez. Thanks so much for having me. This is great. Thank you. So, I am Lois, as it says there, your friend for forgiveness. um, and I help people move from victim to survivor to thriver and beyond to freedom after facing some kind of adversity or tragedy or disadvantage or change. So, that is what I do. And I always like to say, come smile with me. And the reason I say that is people say I'm forever smiling, regardless of all the adversity that I have faced. So I use SMILE as an acronym to describe what I do. I'm a speaker and a storyteller, a mentor, an inspirer, a learning facilitator, and an empowering coach. So come smile with Lois.
Great. So, um, yeah, when we met and we talked about what happened to you and you've been. I mean, I find it somehow difficult to say, but you've been raped and you've been left for dead and you've been through bankruptcy. Uh, how I mean, I cannot even imagine how that is to experience something like that, but then to be able to forgive. Uh, what can you share about that, or what can you tell about that? Where did you find that power to do so?
It's strange because it didn't come naturally, and it wasn't difficult, but it wasn't something that was in my awareness to even forgive.
Mhm.
So it's quite amazing how it happened. I was living outside of South Africa. I was living in the Middle East, and I'd been away for a year, and I decided to go home for a holiday. And this was 14 years after I was attacked. And so I was telling my friends in Oman in the Middle East that I'm going home, and um, I decided to contact the authorities to find out if the rapist was still in jail. He had been arrested and he had been given a 25-year sentence. So 14 years later, you wonder, is he dead? Is he alive? Has he been released for good behavior, whatever? And so I decided to contact the authorities. I'd never made an effort to contact them before. And they informed me that he was coming up for parole the day after I arrived in the country, which was quite a coincidence. And secondly, the law in South Africa had just changed, allowing what they call victims of serious crime to attend parole hearings. And so the coincidence, serendipity, whatever you want to call it, the universe had spoken and said, I must go. So I was telling everybody I was going, and everyone was saying, don't go, you're going to get triggered. Why are you going? What is the purpose of you going? I said, I don't know. I'm just going because it says I must go. And one friend of mine said, well, if you're going to go, you've got to forgive. I said, what? Forgive? Don't be silly. and But he got me thinking, and I did some research. I visited Mr. Google, and I did a bit of research, and I prepared this long, laborious speech just in case. And I never thought that I would forgive. But when I went into the parole hearing, and they went through all the procedure, and he was sitting there. And after they'd gone through all the formalities, they said, did I have anything to say? And I said, yes. And I pulled out my speech and I started reading it. And I thought, oh, this speech is too long winded and I don't understand it. And he only had a grade 4, a grade 6, I think. and his English wasn't his first language. And so I thought, well, he's not going to understand it. So I put it aside and I just looked him in the eye and I said, I want to take all of this. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I want to take this hurt, and I want to take it from my higher self, and I want to hand it to your higher self, that you can take responsibility for it, and I freely and compassionately forgive you. And as I said it, I just thought, wow, that is so true. And I never thought that I would mean it, but as I said it, it became true. And what was so amazing, the authorities said they'd let me know in 7 days if he got parole or not. And I just looked at them and I said, no, you're not going to tell me if he got parole or not. I don't need to know. Because by forgiving, I had broken that bond that
No.
had tied me to him for 14 years. And now he was not a part of me anymore. And so I didn't walk out of that prison. I flew out of that prison completely free.
Uh-huh. Okay. Wow. I mean, and that happened in what, like 24 hours or a day or something? How like you arrived and then you wrote this speech or like did this thing and then you went all in like such a short.
It was probably 2 or 3 days
Okay.
because I was still in Oman and I wrote the speech,
Uh-huh.
and then I arrived in South Africa the very next day. I was at the prison and forgiving him, and so it wasn't something that I'd really given much thought about. I hadn't really planned too much about it. It just happened organically, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, relatively to like let's say to the 14 years is a very it's like a second. Uh wow. So what happened, like what happened with you afterwards? How did life like change for you afterwards?
Excuse me. Life didn't really change at all, except that I felt free.
Yeah.
I wasn't I wasn't triggered anymore. I often got triggered if people walked behind me because he attacked me from behind.
Hmm.
Uh, so if people walked behind me, I would get a fright, or if I heard a loud bang or I heard other people's stories, I'd get triggered, and then it would bring back the negative associations. And since that day, I have not been triggered. It has not, I can see and hear and read about dreadful things and hear terrible noises, and I don't get triggered anymore. And so that is what the freedom does for you. It gives you that peace that it's not part of you anymore. So it really lets you let go of it. And that's what forgiveness is. People don't really understand. They think it's condoning. I don't condone what he did. He deserved to go to jail. He
Hmm.
deserved whatever punishment he got, and he needs to pay his dues. But it's not my concern anymore.
No, I mean what I hear is like, or I'm curious what your opinion about that is. It's like you don't forgive for him, you forgive for yourself, right?
Absolutely, and it may help him.
Hmm.
The fact that I gave it freely and compassionately. I hope it did help him. I don't know if it helped him, but it may help him. But primarily, it was for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's like what I hear is like it changed you. I mean, you were like now you got the freedom, um, and that's like yeah.
And you talk about comfort zone. I think living outside of my comfort zone now is my comfort zone.
Uh-huh.
I became what did change for me after that. I became quite a high risk world traveler.
Uh-huh.
Um, Traveled a lot solo and a lot to countries that single women normally don't go to. Think countries like Iran and Lebanon and Pakistan and countries like that. So, and I would travel alone. I would hire a car. I would go with very little planning. I'd get to the airport, hire a car, grab a GPS if they had one, which often they didn't, and head off into the unknown, no bookings, and just find my way around a strange country. And I don't think I would have done that before.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm just curious how many, what people would tell you when you shared your plans to do that with them. Would they, it's like, oh, that's a great idea, or would they just like tell you maybe it's not the best thing? Should you
My
do?
family was very concerned. My
Yeah.
family was very, very unhappy. But I've got friends. I've got a girlfriend who's my age who's cycling around the world on her own.
Mhm.
And if she can do it, I can do it. And so, yeah, I did take some unnecessary risks. I'm very good at picking up hitchhikers.
Okay.
And that is quite high risk. But I also know how to defend myself.
Mhm. And what is your biggest takeaway from traveling by yourself in all these countries as
Oh,
a woman by yourself?
I just love getting to, I call it getting down and dirty with the locals.
Mhm.
If you're traveling with somebody, you don't really interact fully with the locals because you're sharing with your companion. You say, look at that, how's that? Uh, and you share with them. Whereas when you're on your own, if you want to talk to somebody, you have to talk to a local.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and so I tended to stay in homestays and bed and breakfasts and anything that keeps me close to the locals. And you get to understand their culture and their lives. And it's just a wonderful experience. It opens your mind, it gives you a greater understanding, and just makes you free.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And what did you do like on those trips going beyond your comfort zone?
I think just that, traveling on my own and picking up hitchhikers and having no plan, just saying, you know, I'll say to a hitchhiker, where do you want to go? And then I'll take them there, which is somewhere that I hadn't thought about.
Okay. So they kind of decided where you were going, not even yourself.
Yes. So I didn't have, I must say, I was very fortunate. I never had any bad experiences. I had a couple of car accidents here and there. The driving in some of these countries is dreadful.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but I had no real dangerous situations or where I was afraid. It just all seemed to work out. I got angry once or twice. But
Uh-huh. Do you do you still get afraid, or is that like not really?
uh,
Do you think that that comes from your experience, or you've been like, is it like something like I've been already through the worst? What can scare me? Or
I think it's a combination. You build up resilience. My childhood wasn't that easy. So you start building up your resilience from a young age. South Africa has not been an easy country to live in. So the resilience gets built up through that. And then through my own personal experiences, you just build up that strength, you build up that resilience, you get that grit that helps you move forward. And so you can't focus on the negative. You've got to focus on the positive. And that's what I like to help my clients do, is to, the emotions are there for a reason, and you need to be angry, sad, afraid, whatever it is that you're feeling, it's there for a reason. You must, however, deal with it and move on and find a more positive emotion to live with, rather than staying in that place. So, resilience, a lot of people say it's bouncing back. It's not bouncing back, because you never bounce back after a negative situation. You crawl and scrounge and you fight your way back uh, to get to some form of normality. And then after that, you've got to find the grit and the determination and the passion to move beyond that to something new and something exciting.
yeah, I mean, it takes me back to one of my stories, which is uh, I got robbed once in Rio de Janeiro at knife point, and uh, it's like I've never really like the thing that upset me more was the fact that the lady where I was renting a room, she started like cursing at me and swearing at me. She's like, "I told you this is gonna happen because you walk with your head in the clouds, and it's like it's ridiculous." And I was like, "Do you know what just happened? I just got robbed, and you give me all this shit." and but it's like what I mean, I've thought about it myself. It's like I was expecting that, like, I mean, for maybe like a couple of weeks I walked around like a little bit like, oh, maybe I should pay a little bit attention, but then I mean, I couldn't, like, it was just too much, or like too taking too much energy. I kind of let it go, and I was just like, okay, I want to be free on the street. And then after like 2 3 weeks, I was walking with my head in the cloud again, and she gave me shit again. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not to compare experiences, but it's just like I still like find it like funny or like interesting to see how I dealt with that moment. I could have been like very scared and not go out on the street anymore, or just only with other people, or just looking behind my back all the time. And yeah, it's not the way I want to like be or walk on the street.
As long as you don't get triggered later, it's for me, it's so important that you deal with it. You've dealt with it by saying, "Oh, just let it go," but have you dealt with it? If you experience something similar again, or if somebody close to you experiences something similar, it may trigger you, because have you actually dealt with it? And hopefully you have. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It hasn't. I mean, I haven't been like this is. I mean, this is, well, how long ago now? Maybe 15 years ago or something. But I haven't really like not done something because of that incident, or where I would just be like, let's not do that because it's something might happen. So yeah, I think so. Um, yeah. So you also went through bankruptcy. You said how was that? Was regarding your comfort zone?
Well, again, it was totally out of my comfort zone because uh, I'd been in marketing. My career was a marketing and then a management consulting career. And one of my clients, I've been doing research for him into a digital printing business, which it was in the days long before we even had color printers, back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I did research a feasibility study for him, and I said to him it was a go. And he invited me to join the company. So we joined in a partnership. And we've been operating for about 2 years. We were doing very well because we were the only people in town. So every artist, every designer, every advertising agency, every architect was our client. They would come with their little stiffy disc, stick
Yeah,
it
yeah,
into our machine, and print, and we'd print them out a copy. So it was a very it was a busy business, and we had bought everything on hire purchase and lease and various other long-term payments over 3 years. And so we had a year to go, and we were paying salaries, and we were living comfortably. We had one more year, and we would have been in a really good profit zone because we'd have paid off everything. And my partner decided he wanted to. I decided I didn't want to work there anymore because that is where I was attacked.
okay.
And I didn't want to work there anymore. So I said to him, he must buy me out. So instead of buying me out, he betrayed me and he put the business into liquidation, and then offered to buy the business from the liquidators in his wife's name. So I was betrayed. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And I lost everything. So it was really difficult. I had to go and start my career over, go and get a job, go and work for a boss again. So it was tough going. Uh, I forgave him. I asked him I asked him why he did what he did. His reason was he thought that I was going to take him to the cleaners.
Uh-huh.
And when he explained that to me, I just said, well, I want you to know what it's done to me and what a difficult position it's put me in. But I forgive you and let you go from it. And I forgave him and walked away, no problem,
Free again.
free again.
Okay.
Except I was now tied to a job.
Yeah, that's not really did that go as quick as the forgiving your attacker, or?
That actually had happened maybe a year after it happened. And
Mhm.
when I forgave the rapist, it was so interesting because I never sort of compared the two. Forgiving my partner was just saying, get out of my life, go away. And I never really thought about it as being forgiveness until I forgave the rapist. And then I realized the power of having forgiven the partner. I've got a visitor.
um yeah, and then sometimes it can be harder to, like, I mean, imagine it can be harder to forgive the ones that are close to you.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't difficult at all, and I never prepared that. It wasn't a I want to meet you, and let me figure out what forgiveness is about. It was just let this go, let it go. It's not important anymore.
Okay. So how did you bring it, like, so then you went back into a job, and how did that go? How
Well, I
you
stayed I stayed in the corporate world again for maybe 6 or 7 years, something like that. And then I went out on my own again, started my own training business.
how was that, like was that easy to get out, or was that hard, or
Easy.
easy?
Again, high risk. What the heck? Let's go and do this. We've lost everything once, we can lose it again.
Uh, so what are you attached to?
The cats and dogs.
Okay. Okay, good.
I'm really not attached to anything. When I left, I was living in Cape Town when I left South Africa, and I
Mhm,
went to the Middle East, and I put everything into storage,
mhm,
and I sold everything for next to nothing,
mhm.
and started collecting stuff again in the Middle East. I was there for 11 years. And then when I left the Middle East, I was forced to leave the Middle East because of my age. They didn't want to keep me there after. Normally at 60, they don't renew expat work visas. I got to
Oh, I didn't know
64.
that. Oh, okay.
I got to 64, and then they said, sorry, time out. And so I left everything in Oman and I came back to South Africa with nothing. So I'm not attached to anything. My computer,
Uh-huh. Yeah, 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 yeah.
and yeah, I've actually got no attachments at all. I've got family, I've got nieces and nephews and a brother. That's my only family. And I'm obviously attached to them,
Mhm.
but not to things.
No, no, no. Okay, I wasn't mm, looking for things or a fancy car or a title or something like that. Just like, yeah, anything. I mean, and I totally agree with you. I think it comes down to family, friends, or connections, uh, animals, um, which, yeah, fill up. Well, fill up. Stuff is just stuff. I went through a similar thing. I mean, I once rented out my apartment. I wanted to rent it furnished, and then I had to empty everything except the furniture. And I was thinking about putting it in storage, and I was like, no, 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 that's just like, I'm gonna put it in storage for 2 years. Stuff I don't really use, I don't really care about, and I think I got rid of like 60% of my stuff in about a week, and I've not missed. um, a single thing really. Um, it's just like, yeah. And the other day there was some water damage in my basement, and I had some still. Well, I had a little bit of stuff stored there, and it got all wet. And then I was like, "What am I? Do I really want to go out and dry all this, or just can I just like throw it away?" And I just threw it away. I like it was like a 1 minute thought, and it was fine. It's now my basement is a lot is was already empty, but it's now almost empty. Um, yeah, it's great. I mean, I like it, and I also like. I don't know if you see that, but like somehow, do you keep collecting new stuff or?
I used to be a great collector of things.
Uh-huh.
I used to, my big thing was I used to collect corkscrews, antique corkscrews. I had the most amazing collection. And that
Okay,
was the last thing that I let go of
okay.
with my corkscrews, but eventually I sold them as well.
Oh,
But I've been through habits. I collected hats and I collected masks and I collected things. But yeah, I don't do that anymore.
okay, okay. No, I've never done that, but well, shoes. Yeah, shoes. I collected shoes. I had 100 pairs of shoes at a certain
Oh,
moment.
wow. Are you
Uh,
sure you're not female?
yeah, yeah. I could that could be, but it's down now down to like 40 or something.
What?
That that's still a bit extravagant, but that's the only thing. Um, but yeah, I'm not buying shoes anymore like I used to. Um, I don't even remember the last time I bought a pair of shoes. Yeah, I think maybe I bought one or two pairs last year.
Well, with 40 pairs, there's no need to buy any new ones. You've got your own shop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do for like some sports, like my shoes wear out, so I do need to replace them. But yeah, no, for the rest, no. So yeah, yeah, a shoe collector. So I think another question I would like to ask you. You know, we've talked about your comfort zones and forgiveness. Is how do you what is your opinion towards change in you, change in the world, change in let's say in your world? Do you resist it? Do you find it easy? Do you how yeah, how do you relate to change?
Change happens daily. I mean, we were just talking about social media. Look what the changes are happening in social media. It changes as quickly as the weather changes, and you've got to just go with it. It's pointless fighting it. In fact, the more you look forward to it, the more you're going to grow and enjoy it. Uh, Take it in your stride. Take the risk. You know what can go wrong? Well, things can go wrong, but just forgive and move on.
Yeah,
I, I always say you've got to forgive yourself. So you make a decision based on the change that's happening around you. I'm going to change. I'm going to take the new job. I'm going to marry that person. I'm going to get that new pet, whatever it is. The change is going to happen. You make a decision. And then afterwards you think, oh, that was a mistake. And so the first thing you got to do is to realize that the decision you made was the best decision that you could based on your knowledge at the time. That person was the person you loved at that time, so it didn't work out. But at the time, it was the best decision to make. And so if you're going to resent it and hate it, it's only going to make you anxious and filled with stress and give you high blood pressure. So you've got to let it go. And the first thing I say is to forgive yourself and make it a habit. I always talk about gratitude. Everybody keeps a gratitude journal these days. 3 things you're grateful for, and keep it in a diary or a journal. I say do the same with forgiveness. Every day, 3 things you can forgive yourself for. I forgive my cat for Well, first of all, I forgive myself for allowing the cat to come into the room, which she's coming into the room again. So I forgive myself for not locking the cat out of the room. I
Uh-huh.
forgive I forgive myself for burning the toast. I forgive myself for pushing the snooze button in the morning.
Yeah, yeah,
Three
yeah.
little things that you think that doesn't need forgiveness, but by doing that, you're building a muscle, and it becomes part of who you are, and you forgive more readily. And then you do three things that you can forgive other people for. So I forgive the cat for coming and interfering with my interview. I forgive my friend for forgetting to phone me on my birthday, and I forgive the husband for not bringing the milk home. Okay,
Mhm,
so three things you can forgive other people for. Again, tiny things. It's not important, but it
mhm.
becomes so, today, as I say, I'm your friend for forgiveness. I forgive so easily. I can't hold a grudge anymore. There's no regret. There's no anger. There's no hatred. There's no bitterness. It just, and so that's what change does. If you accept the change and just go with the change, forgive whatever has caused that change,
Yeah.
and find a new path.
But it's like, I mean, it is kind of like a practice, right? You have to practice it daily, or to do it with small things, so you be capable of doing it in the big things. It becomes like a second nature somehow, right?
It's a habit. It's a muscle. You're building a muscle of forgiveness.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, gratitude is the same thing. When I talk to my some of my clients, we will talk about gratitude, or you know, s- give yourself like three compliments a day, or what are you proud of today. They're like, they make it, it's all so big, it's like it's only like these once in a lifetime achievements. It's like, wow, but you don't this not every day is like that. But it's about the little things um, that make the difference, and that give you the freedom, and the happiness, and the joy. What do you think?
Absolutely. Like right now, I'm so happy that this cat loves me, even though he's interfering with with the interview. Um, Absolutely, you need to be grateful and thankful and proud of the things that you've achieved.
Yeah. Is there any change you're resisting in your life at the moment?
Yes.
Do you want to share that or not?
Well, when I got back to South Africa, I focused. I was always in the corporate world, and I decided to go into personal life coaching. And so I've been coaching mostly women who've experienced trauma. And I've decided now that I want to go back into corporate. I'm going to be 70 this year. It's a bit late to go back, but
Uh-huh.
I want to change my emphasis and change it from the personal life coaching more to entrepreneurial and business coaching, where I help people overcome their mistakes and their errors. Because, boy, have I made mistakes and errors in my life.
Mhm.
And so everybody makes mistakes. People are very reluctant to acknowledge or to admit that they've done something wrong or made a mistake. And so I want to do that, and I'm not really resisting it. I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of getting started with it.
Okay. What's stopping you? Do you know?
Yeah, I've got some projects that are time consuming, and I keep saying when I'm finished that project. So it's a
Uh-huh.
little bit of procrastination more than anything else, because I don't think I'll ever finish these projects.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, you're 70 now?
Almost.
Almost. Okay, okay. S- I'm just curious, how long do you want to continue?
As long as I can, first of all, as long as I have to.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I I was very bad at saving, and I traveled the world and didn't put aside money for my old age. So I have to work.
Hmm.
And secondly, I love helping people. I love when I see people achieve their dream or overcome their adversity or challenge. And so it brings me pleasure. So until I'm old, I'm going grey very quickly. So
Okay. So, like, if you had a like a magic wand, what would you want to create for these businesses?
just the ability to move on from where they're at, whether it was an adversity, they got fired, they were overlooked for a promotion. So it could be anything like that. Um, to having a fight with the boss, to losing a contract. So to say, okay, what have I learned from that? To develop a growth mindset and say, okay, how has that helped me become a better person? What can I learn from that? How can I help other people? Knowing now what I know from my experience. If everyone helps everybody, we'd have a great world.
Ah, yes, that is so true. So where can people reach you if they wanna get in touch with you?
Okay, well, my name obviously,
Mm.
although there's very strangely quite a number of Lois Wagners out there.
Uh-huh.
Found it a bit distressing. But Walking Without Skin is my web page. It's the name of my book. So if you have to Google Walking Without Skin, you will find me very easily. There's only one other Walking Without Skin, and that's a robot. so,
So,
so that's my book, Walking Without Skin.
okay. How
So,
did you come to that title?
what does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me walking without skin? For me, that would be like being unprotected, being exposed. Yeah, that's what it would mean to me.
So what it means to you is what it means, whoever interprets it in whichever way they want. But it's about being vulnerable. So it's me vulnerably sharing my story, exposing myself to the world and saying, this is me. This is
Hmm.
who I
I'm just like walking without skin. Do you feel you have less skin or more skin now? Thicker skin.
am. The same. I've got just enough to keep me together.
Okay. So but your bones don't fall apart in some like crippled stuff, a mess on the floor. Lois, it was absolutely a pleasure talking to you. Um, yeah, thank you for sharing your story so openly and so vulnerably. I really, really appreciate that. Um, yeah, I will be here next week with another guest and another conversation. Lois, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bez. And I invite you and everybody to fly free.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.